detailed one. Maybe if there were questions or things to clarify and so on, I'll just participate from that point. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Coach Zipho. I think there was one question from Coach Anton. He asked that, did you expand the program by starting age groups between 5 and 15? If not, did you build connections with programs focusing on those age groups? So was that model then extended to a particular group somewhere else? If the 5 to 13s wouldn't start either at Sundowns, Puk Tawana, or at the Northwest?
I'll ask Sudesh to answer those types of questions because that was his role. I was more on the side of the field. Unmute, Sudesh. You are muted. Yeah.
Okay. As I mentioned earlier, the big plan was the medium to long term. It was a year-on-year incremental. That's how we went further down to age groups. And you look at the Sundowns program now is actually based on what was started there. In the second year, I think we went to under 17. The third year was under 15. And it went on to under 13 because I left the project after 3 years. After the second year of the Puk Tawana project, I was asked by the president to come over to start up the scouting division within Sundowns. And then from there, I formed the international scouting division. And then I was promoted to the chief scout. And then I left after 3 years there. I had a job opportunity in Nigeria. And also there were other issues within the club that I was not happy about. But it has now gone into a fully fledged high-performance project with various age groups. I think they've gone down to now under 7, under 8. The satellite project is still in place, although I'm not sure if it's as widely spread as it was intended to be. So the project, as we envisaged, the structure is still there in place at Sundowns. I'm not sure of the methodology, the training methodology, whether it's the same as what we were using back in the day. I hope that answers the question.
Thank you, Coach. Coach David, you had a question in the previous session. You're on now, sir.
Oh, yeah, thanks. Mine was a short one. I think I showed up on the screen first to thanks the Coach Sudesh, Coach Zipho. As they indicated, I think the foundation of the work they've put up, I can bear testimony to that, being part of the youth setup at Sundowns. Of course, like any other good apple, you know, it's a question of how long does it taste nice. So the taste has differed somewhat and it's been diluted. That's the truth of the matter. But my interest was actually on and based on, again, having gone through Maximal training and cure in terms of reading material and being engaged in this session, has given me the opportunity to go back and revisit my engagement with Maximal training again. And I think one of the successes or maybe major differences of why the success of the players that I see is how the specificity of training with the complex dynamic in it was implemented. And I'm a little bit curious and wish that maybe Coach Zipho, as he said, and Coach Sudesh could share on some of activities or forms of activities to achieve that, because I think that's a major difference between your normal global, even today, training that I see. I hope my question is clear. I think Sudesh touched a little bit on, for example, you know, one time they were training players with a 1 foot, and so I think that part would make it a little bit more complete in terms of the connection of why Maximal training is so special for me.
I think, Omar, if I can answer that, I think, David, before we go there, I think one fact that I touched briefly on, but I think I need to explain a bit more, is how do we scout players, you know. There's the old-fashioned way of going talent identification or player profiling. When you do player profiling, you're actually looking for players per position. The profile is a position. But modern football is multifunctional, so we don't really look for a specific player for a position. We go on the criteria for talent discovery. So even if it means you get 10 or 11 players who are of the similar build, similar characteristics, but because of the methodology that you train in them, they will suitably fill any role. And because of the formation and the style of football you play, they are multifunctional. I'll give you an example like Sianda Kulu. I actually discovered him accidentally. I was tracking another player from the Chiefs development team. I'd went 3-4 times, watched this player. And in about 2 of those games, Sianda just started popping up in my mind. You know, I just started saying, okay, this boy, he's for a central defender, he's got some good attributes. He's always comfortable with the ball. He's trying to build from the back. And then I started watching him more, and I wrote off the other boy because there were others that came into the system, like the Chabu Shongwes and them who had also been scouting and watching. They had better qualities than the boy that I was watching at the Chiefs. I don't want to mention the boy's name, but it was sad to see that he never really made it into professional football. He was a favorite of Coach Als Puk Tawana and Dr. Kumalo at that time. He was exceptionally talented, but for various reasons, he never made the transition to the first team. He was actually more highly rated than players like Sianda and some of the other players in the youth team. So I think the criteria for scouting is so much more important. And some of my colleagues, they were saying, no, one day we need to put together a session on scouting, because before we even try to train players, we need to know what are we looking for. It's like when you go out to buy something, somebody gives you money, go and buy a car. You first need to know what kind of car can you buy, you know, irrespective of how much money you have. So I think likewise in football, if we know what we're looking for, what type of player we're looking for, then it makes it that much more, or rather less challenging to develop that player. So we need to move away from that orthodox or rather old-fashioned way of profiling players, because even the more advanced teams in Europe are now going on talent criteria. They're looking for specific type of players, you know, with specific attributes. But coming back to what you mentioned about the training methodology. So the attributes of the player are directly related to the training methodology. But there are players that we experimented with who showed a bit of the attributes, but obviously we can only enhance those abilities minimally. So some players we had to cut off. Some players were good enough to play for other teams, but we had to drop them off. They were not good enough to be in the project, because the methodology, the training content is very demanding. And it's based on those attributes that we speak about. So you look at those things of training on one leg. We used to use also, Zippo will tell you, training with 2 balls, sometimes 3, because that's how we're comfortable with both feet, you know. There are a lot of things that we could talk about. The actual training content is very, very intense, detailed, complex. There were a lot of, I take a simple thing like aerobic ball work. Many people look at it as 3 people just kicking 2 balls, moving, but it's so demanding. And most of our, the intensity of most of our exercise were always medium to high. And you look at the demands of the modern game, it's always high intensity. How do you get players to perform for not just 90 minutes? So you got to train them for 100 minutes at high intensity. So it's those kind of things. So if you don't prepare players, that's why in your criteria, you got to also scout for players that have a natural predisposition to have a great aerobic and anaerobic capacity. Players, and we know Southern African and African players have that naturally in them. But how do you develop, especially the anaerobic capacity? That's another science on its own. So the training methodology is football specific, because we want the team to play a certain way. So the training is the key. How do you condition those players? So the conditioning, I remember Ted developed gym exercises with the ball, which no one had ever seen. We all know University of Northwest. They have a high performance project for, I think it was hockey and athletics, even foreign athletes. I think the British gold medal 800 meters, it was a lady who was camping there for 1 year before the Olympics, you know. So we are sharing the gym space with world-class athletes. And when they see some of the gym exercise with the ball, they were blown away. So it's about, as we said, being creative, searching for knowledge, relevant knowledge, and applying it in the correct way. The other things that we used a lot were football-specific plyometric training, football-specific resistance. How do you build the strength of players instead of just putting them in the gym? So we used a lot of elastic bands, you know, but all related to football, not just elastic bands, weight resistance, static, but dynamic, in motion with the ball. And I must say, this was one exercise I remember using it in Vietnam, and they had a Brazilian national coach at that time who came 6 months after I had been there. And some journalists in a press conference asked me, they said, "Coach, we've seen this Brazilian coach using resistance bands, but there's a difference." So I said, "What difference?" Because I had not seen his training. They said, "No, he's doing it static. The bands were tied to a pole and players were just moving. But you are doing it with the ball and there's motion." So I said, "Yeah, the game is about the ball. Is that not so?" So you got to develop football-specific muscles, football-specific movements. And how else can you do that if you don't replicate the game in whatever you do? So the training, and we look at that's why you have coaches like Pochettino, Klopp, Pep. They're embracing what's scientific, but in a very knowledgeable way. Another guy I wish a lot of you coaches can follow a bit and read into his methodologies is Marcelo Bielsa. You know, it's very similar to what we are doing. So everything, as we mentioned, has got to be brain-centered. It's got to be complex. When we talk about these exercises that we do, the brain is always engaged because the player is thinking non-stop. What does he do? What does he do? The ball is at his feet. He's moving. We throw in an opponent there. There's different movement directions, all those kind of things. So the methodology, the training content will take us months and years to get to know, but it's all there, David. Don't worry, we will share. That's why some people ask me when I wanted to speak about this project, is it a secret? Why do you want to talk about it? I said, there's no secrets in football and we need to share. How do we empower each other, you know? So this was our experience, our example, and we prepared to share this knowledge. Thanks a lot for that question, David. Anything else, Omar? Or Zippo, do you want to have some input here?
Thanks. Just briefly, what I could say to all of us is coaching the players that we have in Asia, be it in the continent of Africa or most of the, say, third world countries. But more specifically, if we're coaching creative players, as we often have, let's accept that my starting point is this: we are experimenting, because as it is, we don't have any research that is proven how they respond, how they think generally. I'm talking the full squad of creative players, not one talented player out of a group. I'm talking a full team of talented players. In fact, a full complement where you select from already. There's a lot of talent, creativity, and so on. So you're pulling the best of that. I'm saying there is no document, there is no research program that says this is how you handle them. So every time we are faced with a situation where it's an experiment, will it pay off or not? Only at the end can we say that. So the little pockets that we can talk about, including the one presented today, are part of reference points that we can use going forward. But I always believe that it can be better than that, as long as in our minds we understand it that way. If we're gonna rely on produced material already to train the players that have not been researched, I'm sure we don't need to be professors to see that we might lose our way along. So we are dealing with a new player, in inverted commas, new, because nobody has researched them as a group, as a society, for example, as a community. So we're dealing with that, but we know in our minds, luckily, we like them. We are the same as them. We are the same product from just the difference of generations and times. So we are not. We should not be skirting anything. That is why maybe Sudesh in 2 presentations before today, I think he was emphasizing the point of cut and paste, because what you're cutting is something that exists, but you're pasting on something that has not been researched yet. So you're writing a new thesis using old information that may not be relevant. It may, by chance, help, but generally and by and large, it will not excite, it will not generate. And without taking it too far, I think we should also accept, especially guys in the presentation today, if we are a South African in this presentation, we should also know that how guilty we are. And this is one of the problems why the most skillful of the players are the ones that suffer the most in the current situation. The ones that have paid the price in the last 20 years, if you look at the players that have gone wayward, I don't want to mention names or what they have done, but the players that have really, really gone to the woods are the ones that should have helped South Africa achieve something. Maybe I should stop there. I try to answer to help to also, but I always love to provoke our minds, including mine, to say what is new, what can we do next? I mean, tomorrow is Friday, and tomorrow is Friday. It's the first Friday we've never seen this kind of Friday in our lives. It's 2020. It is June, and I mean, it's the 12th, or is it yes? It's the 12th, or maybe it's the 11th. So I'm saying every day is new. Can we think that way as well? Thank you.
Yes. Coach Mwape. You can go ahead, Coach.
Hi, coaches. My question is to both Sudesh and Coach Zipho. How did the program make sure that they're able to prepare players to fit in a team environment and into a system specific to that team? Because from what I picked up, a lot of individual work was done. But how then do you tie the individual work with fitting the players into a team and systematic environment?
Thank you very much, Coach Mwapa, for that question. I'm getting disturbed. I'm not sure from where. Zipho, can you mute, please? I'm not sure if. Thank you. So on your question, yes, this is very relevant. What you've asked. What we did, because let's look at the other way, and sometimes I get clobbered for saying this, that when you start playing, we don't know anything about position. When you start playing, anyone, anytime, anywhere in the world. So that is the player that you should work with, because naturally the positions come late. So if you have worked well with the individual, whatever position they may have to perform in is already, I want to put it this way, is the player that makes the position. It's not the position that makes players. So if you put all that the player may be able to acquire, and you develop, you help the player to perform to their maximum output, you can actually put them in 2, 3, maybe 4 positions, which is why also I said earlier that when we're dealing with creative players, they are non-positions. They actually rebel about being in a particular space at a particular time to do a specific job. So they rather do more than that. So kind of a CEO, if you think, in a company, somebody that takes care of more than one item, but eventually they deliver the requirements. So we try to do that, because if you develop a player for a 4-3-3, which is why your question is so relevant. If you develop someone for a 4-3-3 as a right winger or left wing, whatever, then it goes to another coach who plays very good 4-4-2, then it's all chaos. But if you develop a player to deliver what the game requires at any specific time, that player can actually play for any team under any circumstance, as long as the game is creative. I think I will stop there for now, so that we can always participate.
Omar, any more questions before we close off?
Just waiting. Any questions from coaches before we end off?
How many minutes, Omar?
We've got about 5 minutes left.
Can I ask a question, Omar?
Yeah, you can go ahead.
Okay. Thank you, coaches, and I've been listening. It's very enlightening. So thank you very much. So my question is based mostly if we're looking at grassroots and specifically with girls coaching. I've had the opportunity to coach girls teams in the past until like for now as well. But what I see is I get girls in high school, grade 8, who are keen to play soccer, and they haven't kicked a soccer ball from grade 1 up to grade 7. Or if they have, they've done it in a very unstructured or unguided way, where they just know it's a soccer ball and they kick around, but they have no rounded knowledge of what to do with it. What do you think can be done to sort of help create a platform for girls development using MT at an early stage, so that when girls come up to high school or come up to a level of 13, 14, under 17, they are not starting day one then, but they have been enlightened and they know where to start. Thank you.
Thanks for that question. Because we don't have time, I'll try and jump in now and save as much as we can. Well, yes, it's normal in South Africa to have girls that have not kicked the ball until age 13, 15. You are lucky if you get them at grade 8. I have the experience having worked at tertiary institutions where girls have not kicked the ball post-matric and they start at tertiary level to play. But believe it or not, this potential that they have, and maybe also because women have a different quality. I won't say go there now, but we know we're all here because of them. So they still can change and play and produce some performance. Of course, if you got them earlier, even it will be better. But what I can say, and what is most important, get them to play. Well, sometimes we make a mistake because they've not played. We want to teach them how to pass. No, they must just play. Get them to small games, like put them where you started, where I started, where we started. We started by playing a game. We did not start by passing. So put them in that environment. You will be surprised how quick they will improve. Of course, the more they get used to playing, then you can start to identify that this is how you pass, this is how you do that. But let them play first, because to explain how to pass is like trying to explain a long equation of mathematics to somebody that has never gone to a mathematics class. They listen, it makes no sense at the end. But so the game itself, yes. Small-sided games are the beginning, they are also the end of the game, because what are we preparing for at the end is to play a game between two teams. So that would be my advice. And of course, we have a challenge as a country. We need to take that age lower for girls and so on. And we encourage and we always advocate for that younger girls before puberty should play with the boys. It will improve both genders' technical ability, and it will improve a lot of interaction. It's got a social benefit that the two genders will respect each other for life.
Thank you, Coach Zipho. We've got Coach. Our last question is going to be Coach Mkolise. Coach, you can go ahead.
Yeah, thanks, Coach Omar, for the opportunity. The question is more for all the older guys in the Maximal training space, particularly yourself, Coach Zipho, Coach Sudesh. It's more around, everybody speaks about mental, and this word keeps popping up in football conversations. And I've been intrigued by a bit of research that I was doing over the COVID period, trying to understand if when we speak about cognitive training of players, that could be done in relation to the game, the training sessions. I wonder if the methodology or the Maximal training in its entirety caters for virtual cognitive training. And the reason I ask this is I'm inclined to want to understand why neuroscientists, they help people with mental impairment when they are found in that capacity, but we are not necessarily aware that players could have mental disabilities, and these are the same players that we want to challenge with so many dynamics of the game. Is there a consideration of some sort? Is there some work that's been done in that space? If the question requires a different session, I'm okay to not get the answers today.
Omar, I think briefly you can expand on that because you...
Yes. I think, Coach, thank you, Coach. Yeah, Coach, thank you for that question. Yes, myself and Coach Isaac, we teach at a special needs school where we deal with different special needs, autism, ADHD, OCD, dyspraxia, the whole spectrum of special needs. And when I've discovered over the last 4 years of me teaching at this particular school that it has become clearer that players that I've coached in the past that did not comprehend an instruction or a guidance that I offered, most of the time they would have had a special need that was never identified. So they cannot make 1, 2, 3 and beyond decisions because I looked at them as a normal player, as a normal learner. But having the background in the last 4 years, I could identify and then alter my coaching at the school that I'm at, and also through particular research of special needs sports coaching, that a lot of these players are very limited in their decision making. So a basic execution of a skill or technique would take for them very long to acquire that specific competence in that particular skill or technique, whereas the normal mainstream player would do it over one session. I had to be patient over a month period to see the progress. And then when that player, and then I've seen that over a 3-year period, working with these players from ages 10, 11, and 12, when they start graduating into the high school, the improvement that there was, and also because I have used the special needs coaching coupled with maximal training, right? So I need to these players that they are special needs, their thinking is not as fast, they cannot comprehend an instruction, they are easily distracted, and we do find that even at our particular mainstream clubs and schools, players are also distracted. We just think that they are naughty or they are ill-disciplined. We don't really think that they might be a special need learner who's suffering from an ADHD, who doesn't have a proper diet, so what he's putting into his body before coming to training is not good for him. Lots of sugars, so the concentration span and the concentration level is not as the way it's supposed to be because of his diet or because of him being a special needs young person. Just I hope, Coach and Policia, I've touched briefly on it, we can engage one another further on that particular area. Any other questions before we round up?
Thanks, Omar. I think are we out of time, or is there?
There's about 5 minutes left, Coach.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
Coach David.
Yeah, mine was a short comment in support of the presentation of today, Sudesh, Coach Zipho, and in the absence of the late Prof. May he so rest in peace, to say to the colleagues, and maybe Sudesh didn't mention this, that part of the 26 players that actually were produced in that short space of time, Sudesh, if you remember, we went to the All Africa Games with Coach Shakes, and we didn't have
Mozambique,
players. Yeah, in Mozambique, yes. And we didn't have players. We had to put up a team in a space of 4 days. And I remember we were in camp with 4 players. And suddenly there was about 7 players that rocked up from Sundowns, from the Puk Tawana project. And I think we went to the All Africa Games with 5 of those players. And I experienced the multifunctionality, as Coach Zipho indicated earlier, of the players who can fit any situation and can play in any position. And we went on to be runners-up at the All Africa Games in qualification for London 2012. So I'm trying to say, indeed, MT works and produces players that can fit any situation. Thanks.
Thanks, David. That was something also. There's so many different memories, but that's a good one you brought up. Yeah, I remember I was there those games in Mozambique, scouted and spent a lot of time with you and Bryce Shakes during that tournament. Yeah, Omar, in closing, I would like to say thanks, guys, for the questions. Thanks for
Excuse me, Sudesh. Before you close, because you are the boss, yes.
Yes,
so
I just wanted. Bosses, yeah.
Thanks to everybody for listening and tolerating us, especially myself with a second language speaker in English. I want to say that we have a serious opportunity. We are faced with an environment where nobody has gone ahead of us to make the kind of players that we are faced with on a daily basis, to make them reach the highest levels in the game. So it's one hand challenge, yes, life is a challenge. But on the other hand, it's an opportunity of a lifetime where we can take these kids, be it girls, boys, youth, or even senior professional, if you are there, to show what is it that they're really made of. For those who are in the group as well, in the WhatsApp group, they will know when I say they here are our smartphones. Please, let's use all the features. Thank you, and enjoy the rest of the time.
Thanks, Zippo. And thanks again, guys. In closing, I want to leave you with another quotation. This time it's American Indian proverb. You know, the Red Indians, Apaches. They say, each generation sacrifices for the next. The connection is the sacrifice. Thank you, guys. Thanks again, once again. Thanks, Omar.
Okay, thank you, everybody. Thank you, Coach Sudesh, Coach Zipho, and all the contributions that was made. Till we convene again a week from now, thank you very much. I will forward you all the information, and Coach Zipho King Kekana has recorded the 2 sessions, so we will be posting it soon on our YouTube channel. Please watch YouTube so that you can share the information, share the knowledge, and so that we can grow together and fulfill our primary role of producing a product for our national teams. Thank you very much, and stay safe and God bless.
Omar, protest, Omar. You can't call Zipho, no, protest, you can't call Zipho Kekana a coach. No, then I resign as a coach. No, never.
Right.